I work at a small grocery store. The owner of the store was a man named Randy, and one day he told me a strange story. 20 years ago, Randy worked at a grocery store in the same neighborhood. Back then, there was a coworker named Curtis, and the two became friends as they worked together. One day, Curtis confessed that he had murdered someone before, and when Randy scoffed at him, thinking it was a joke, Curtis said it is true, and he doesn't get arrested by the police even if he kills people. So when Randy told him to stop joking, Curtis said he would prove it. One day, while the two were looking for a target, they found a man walking alone in the alley, and Curtis abducted and murdered him. Randy said this is all he knows. He said he has no idea what Curtis did to the man. After a while, a man in the neighborhood was reported missing. The police broke in and interrogated Curtis, but there was no evidence against him. So Randy kept asking Curtis how he did that, but he didn't tell him anything. After all, time passed by and Randy felt a sense of guilt. However, he didn't have the courage to report the incident because if he does, he would make himself an accomplice. Randy told me it has already been 20 years, warning me to always watch out for people. It is hard for me to believe what he said. I just thought he made up the story. Then one day, a man named Curtis dropped by our store. Randy greeted Curtis and introduced him to me. I felt a sense of uneasiness. He is that murderer? He was an average-looking man. He was rather kind-looking. Curtis greeted me with a relaxed face. After a while Randy was away, I asked Curtis, "Hey, there is something that Randy told me. Is it true?" Curtis suddenly stiffened and asked what I'm talking about. I hesitantly said, 20 years ago. Then Curtis cut me off, saying, "Oh, of course that's a made-up story. Does that make sense?" Then he got up from his seat with a grave face. After a while, on his way out of the store, he said, "Would you like some candy?" Then he handed me a piece of candy wrapped in a transparent paper. I took it, but I didn't eat it. He kept looking at me, as if demanding me to hurry up and eat it. As I refused to eat, he asked for it and took it back. From that day on, Curtis kept coming to the store, approaching me every time. He kept asking me to go for a walk or go out to eat, but I constantly refused him. Then Randy came to me one day and said, "Looks like you've become a target of Curtis. Run away. Don't ever come back here again. Go far away to another neighborhood. Don't let him find you." I actually quit working after a few days. Fortunately, I no longer had to run into Curtis, but endless fear and doubt lingered in my mind. But after a while, I heard news that Randy was missing. The police found that Randy had last left the store with Curtis and started investigating Curtis. And finally, they found Randy's hair in Curtis's house. However, no matter how hard they searched Randy's body, they just couldn't find it. After persistent investigation, the police finally found something in Curtis's house. There had been a hidden space in the ceiling of his house. In the ceiling, there laid Randy's body. Also, there was a concrete wall. When the wall was drilled, white bones and corpses were found. The DNA test of the bone revealed that it was the man who was missing 20 years ago. Curtis was sentenced to life imprisonment.